I'm a self-confessed personality hire. I've sold wine over the phone, paparazzi photos, ad space, but what I've always been best at is selling myself. I'm Jodie Clarke, a journalist with a knack for flying sideways into rooms that weren't built for me. Welcome to The Personality Hire, the show where Riz is the resume. I've got a beautiful guest on the show today, a gorgeous guest. Her name is Miranda McLennan from Those Who Dare. Now, Miranda has worked as the head of HR and led companies across a number of industries, both here in Australia and overseas. She has a business management degree majoring in HR, and would she describe herself as a non-traditional HR professional? And that's exactly what we're all about here at the Personality Hire. Let's give a warm welcome to Miranda McLennan.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Lovely. I'm very happy to be here.
I'm very happy to have you here.
Sorry that I sound like a man.
No, it's sexy.
I'm going to lean into it.
Lean into it, babe. I'm here for the husky vocals that we're rolling with today. Look, I've been meaning to do an episode with you for a hot minute because we've had some really interesting HR conversations, and I think when we think HR, it can cause it brings up a bit of a divide.
Most people hate us. Yeah.
You said it.
Yeah, people hate HR, and that's why I actually hate the term HR. It actually needs a whole rebrand.
There's a distrust for it, isn't there? There's a distrust for HR. A lot of people have a complicated relationship with HR. Why do you think that is?
I think traditionally when HR was formed, it was very much, there was a lot of union-based industries and things like that for starters, but I think they get a really bad rap because they're known to advocate for the employer rather than the employee, which is why I feel like I'm very non-traditional in that sense, because I can see both sides and I would rather compromise to make sure that it works for both parties as opposed to just the employer always coming out on top, like it's just, David and Goliath thing, I think.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Miranda. It's this whole sense of they're there to almost give the perception that they're your friend and they've got your back. But we know, they're for the business. Their job is to protect the interests of that corporation, and that doesn't always align with your personal interests. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And that's where I have a definite probably ethical dilemma personally with some of the organisations and the directives that I've been given. I really struggle with that at times because I'm basically telling them something that I wholeheartedly do not believe in. That sucks.
And do you think a lot of HR professionals would feel that way, relate to you in that, where it's their job, right? They've been building this career. They are very experienced in what they do, but sometimes there's a misalignment with their own personal values.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. But I would also like to, I'll speak for myself. I've definitely done a lot of advocating based on my own values in those executive C-suite management conversations, so that my opinion is actually heard, so that it's not just an echo chamber of them saying, we want to do this, we want to do this. I actually genuinely think that it is my job to advocate for the workforce, not just for the employer. So there's a lot of advocacy that I think the general, say, employee team wouldn't ever see, and yet I'll probably still be labelled as the bitch because I'm the one delivering the message, but that's just how it goes.
Well, end of day, it is a job, right? And I've had some beautiful, leaders that I've worked with in HR that have always really embraced me, supported me, and held me at those times when I needed support.
Yeah,
so,
that's good to hear.
There are Mirandas out there, so don't come for all of them, okay?
That's good to hear.
Now, let's get into the chat because, as you know, this is called the Personality Hire. So I need to know from an HR baddie such as yourself, are personality hires recognised as a real thing by HR? Is this a thing? Are there conversations behind the closed doors about personality hires?
I don't know if the term personality hire is flown around too much, but I know me personally, the amount of times I've gone in to bat for someone that does not fit the box that, management have said we need 4 of these types or whatever. The amount of times I've had a resume come across my table and I can see just the value that they could add. There's obviously the technical skills we can teach them. To me, that's not as important. But if there's all these other extracurriculars where it's like, wow, they're actually a really interesting person where they've done all of this other stuff, that can actually help us in all these other, parts of the business. So I think, generally speaking, they're just far too close-minded on their own prerequisites. And they just open it up and just see like what is out there. And someone like you and myself, I would like to say, that has a bit of riz, they actually do stand out, and they can not only add a lot more value elsewhere, but like they bring the vibe. Like that's actually the whole point, is you go to work, you enjoy what you do, you go to what you do, and you want to work with great people. So there's actually far more value to be added that way.
I think a lot of those soft skills can be harder to learn. It's like some people just
100%.
cannot relate to people.
You can't teach that.
You can't teach empathy. Mm-hmm. You can't teach personal skills. You can't teach character. Someone has a character flaw. Oh, it's hard to shimmy that out of them real quick.
No, ask all my ex-boyfriends. You can't teach that.
We're taking shots now. I'm here for it. Now, Miranda, I've written here, resumes are dead, personality is everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're absolutely here for it. Mm-hmm. How do you think someone like myself or someone that's tuned in, what can they do to stand out?
That's so true. Like, as someone who's probably read tens of thousands of resumes in my last 10 plus years, it is the resumes that stand out that I still to this day remember. So whether that's that you grew up in a farm in North Queensland and you drove tractors for the first 10 years of your life, or I don't know, you moved over to Santa Monica and lived there for 5 years, and while you were there you did this really niche thing. It's actually the extracurriculars to me is what stands out. Like, what do you do in your spare time? How do I get to know you? Because at the end of the day, if I'm receiving sometimes, say, 200-300 resumes that are basically all have the same degree, they have all the same GPAs, whatever that might be, it's actually everything else that matters that's going to make me remember you. So if you can actually explain a little bit about your personality or your hobbies and things like that, that's going to stick out to me. I also really love when people personally address a cover letter to me. Like if they've actually looked up the company and they've said, okay, Miranda's head of HR, I'm going to address it directly to her, so that they know. It just shows effort, like that you actually care and that you want the job. Then there's obviously the next step, which we've spoken about before, which is like stalking them on LinkedIn. And someone sends me a message and said, hey, I've applied for this graduate role. I've been obsessed with this company for so long. It was one of the reasons that got me into this industry. Or, I would love to have a chat with you. And then obviously I'm going to put two and two together and be like, look, they're already putting in more effort, not the bare minimum as what everyone else is doing. So that to me stands out instantly. I think it's great.
Absolutely. And I think what you're describing now are things that I've personally done time and time again, and they do work. You should never ever use, death to whom it may concern, honey. Death to the job. If you're going to write to whom it may concern, you ain't getting in there, doll. You always, as Miranda says, you always want to find the person who's hiring for the job and address it to them. I would always do that. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn does the heavy lifting for you. And I'm a big fan of the LinkedIn DMs. Do they call it DMs? That's what I call it.
I call it DMs.
Yeah, I slide in the LinkedIn DMs. That's always given me great cut through. It shows initiative, helps you to stand out. And another thing that has always worked for me as well, but let me know if you think this is a bit too much. I will stalk the person that I'm going to be meeting with if I can find out
for sure. Yeah.
Who they are, and almost try to find out a way that I can connect with that person. Mm-hmm. Let's say Mr. Fred has a passion for investing. Oh, that's interesting. I like investing too. Find a common link. Mm-hmm. Find a way to drop it in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Companies obsessed with high performance are usually high turnover. This is something Miranda said to me that really stuck. Companies obsessed with high performance are usually high turnover. What did you mean by that?
Lived experience. Look, I understand that there's a lot of brilliant companies out there who have huge stretch goals and want to literally change the world, and I think that's so admirable. But I think that if the first thing that comes out of your mouth when you're trying to sell, the company as a place to work for someone is we're incredibly high performing, we're one big family, to me that is a very, very big red flag, because at the end of the day you should be just attracting people that genuinely love that industry or want to be part of that role or that impact. You shouldn't have to say, to me, high performing is almost subliminally saying, are you okay to work 60, 70 hour weeks and not get paid the addition? To me, that's how that comes across. So I feel quite uncomfortable, even within my role as HR, to say that, and then, you know, like describe our company as that. I think that should go without saying that, hey, we all want to work really hard and we want to achieve. Like, it should just go without being said.
It's a bit of a red flag, right?
It is, 100%.
It's almost like if you hear that in the interview process, would you advise people that is a big red flag?
Yeah. And the second big red flag to me is we're one big family, because we all know families are dysfunctional. So who wants to be part of another one of those? I want a workplace that has respect and boundaries. That's what I want.
I think having healthy boundaries between your personal life and work is really important. And that looks different to everyone, right?
Yeah.
But these companies that are promoting this culture of burnout and working late every night, working weekends and never taking a sick day, it's got to stop.
It does. The implications, like the consequences of that, are just huge, absolutely huge.
And also sick leave. I feel like behind the scenes, what are the conversations around sick leave? Do companies actually want you to take it?
So my take on sick leave is it's there for a reason. Like, we should be using it when we need it. It just sucks that there's usually one person that ruins it for everyone else. You know, like, the fact that you need to have a sick leave policy is pretty shit, in my opinion. Like, you should just have that trust and know that everyone, you know, if you're feeling burnt out, take a day. Like, if I'd rather someone takes a day or 2 days.
Take a day, Joel.
Than take 2 weeks because they're completely burnt out and their nervous system is fried. Like, to me, that's not productive whatsoever. But generally speaking, it's always one or two people that absolutely abuse it, and it just ruins it for everybody else.
Exactly, and also, and you're right. If you don't take that day, it will build up, and then you'll get to a point where I've had this before. I've had to take stress leave and take like a week off, because I was just at that point where I just could not go on. Yeah,
and you probably weren't in an environment where you felt safe to say, hey, I'm feeling the effects of, you know, like some burnout. Maybe I should be a bit proactive in how I'm handling this, and take a day, go to the spa, go get a massage, like do something that's actually going to make you feel better, as opposed to, taking stress leave, which to me is probably a failure on the HR team that you were working with or your manager, because it should never get to that point.
Can we touch base on salary? Because I know a previous guest of mine, Annabelle, she has a very strong opinion about pay transparency, which I found refreshing. She thinks we should be very transparent about our salary to sort of protect people in the workplace. What is your take on that? Do you think workplaces should be a bit more open about, you know, people's pay?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with Annabelle. I think that if they're not upfront with their salary, even in that advertisement of the role or in the first interview, I think that to me is also a bit of a red flag. You're also going to waste their time. Like, why get to the second, third interview only to then, you know, basically get rid of them because they can't say they've got a mortgage and they're like, I just can't afford to have that salary. Like, I need something more, and maybe the budget doesn't allow for that. So why even waste their time? To me, that's just silly. But I think if you're not upfront with your salary, why are you hiding that? What is the motive behind not being open and honest with what the salary is?
And also, I think some places don't really want you to be in a position where you can negotiate well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like, there is also something to be said for like the startups and things like that. Like, there's genuine opportunities out there where you might actually take a pay cut to work for that particular company or that person. But maybe there's other things that they can offer you that actually mean more. Like, not everyone is driven by, you know, a financial desire or whatever. But like, maybe there's something else that they can do. So it might be that, it is, you know, $80,000 a year when you were hoping for 90, but maybe we can do 4 days a week instead of 5. Like, there's other things that you can actually be flexible on, and I think it's when people aren't open and transparent and then they aren't willing to be flexible on things that actually matter to an individual, that's when you've got the problem.
That's a good point as well. We have touched base on this in previous episodes about the difference between, you know, what a Gen Z employee values is very different from a boomer. You know, a lot of the young people I speak to, they value purpose over pay. If they get that flexibility you spoke of, they're more likely to take a 10K, even 20K, 30K pay cut if they're doing something they love on their terms.
As someone who's spoken to thousands of Gen Z for like grad roles and things like that, Flexibility is actually one of the biggest things for them. They're like, is there the opportunity to work from home a couple of days a week? And I think remembering as well, they kind of went through uni during that COVID time. So they're very used to working alone, regardless if it's a team assignment or whatever. But like, that's what they're genuinely used to. So to then all of a sudden find themselves in the workforce where it's full time, 5 days a week, and you have to be present in an office with other people, it's quite a stark difference. And I think employers need to understand that. It's quite different to how maybe a boomer was, came up the ranks, or it's just so different, and you need to really understand what each person values.
Maybe like get to know your employees.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the one size fits all approach just doesn't work.
It absolutely doesn't. Touching base on COVID, wasn't that a crazy time? And what do you think about the push by, these corporates to get employees back in the office? Because I know that has been making headlines as well. People are just, they've got a taste of this new work-life balance and they're not letting go.
I am very fortunate that at the time when COVID kind of came about, I was managing a huge international team, so we were already all work from home, and it was like a dream. It was kind of like, oh great, I feel like I'm not affected by this whatsoever.
Now on salary though, because this is a big one that people struggle with, what's your take on people asking for a pay rise? A lot of my girlfriends are struggling with this right now. They know how much work they're putting in. They feel that they're valued more. How do you even start when you hear the same old excuses? Oh, we don't have the budget. Yep. Oh, it's this time of the year, try again next year. How do you go about navigating that if you know that you're putting in the work?
It's a really difficult conversation, but as a woman, I would love to see far more women feel empowered to talk about money and actually demand what they believe that they're valued. I would love to see that more often. And the amount of times I've actually said to people that have approached me and said, hey, I'd love to have a pay discussion. I actually congratulate them because I said, I can imagine how nerve-wracking this would be to approach someone in my position and say, hey, I think I'm worth more. How can we discuss that? Like, what does that look like? So the first thing I say is like, look, thank you for coming to me, because I think that the last thing I would want is them to sit there for a further 6 months, 12 months and think, wow, I'm really undervalued, and then we potentially lose someone great. So I think that's probably the first problem. The second way that I would approach it though, and I've said this so many times, your manager is not responsible for your career progression. That is fully on you, girl. Like, you are fully in control of that. So don't expect and don't just sit there waiting for your 6-month check-in or whatever it is. And by that, I basically mean what I would do, and I've said this to many, many people in the past that I've managed, get very clear on what your resume looks like currently, what your skill set is. I would then go out and find 2 role descriptions or position descriptions that are either 1 or 2 levels above you, both of them. And I would get very clear on what the gaps are between where you are now and what that role is asking for. And then you basically need to go and say, okay, well, what leadership experience or development do I need to show that I'm capable of that role? And then what projects do I need to work on to have the experience to prove that I have the skill set and the experience to actually be even at that level? Because that becomes a much easier conversation to approach someone like me or their manager and say, hey, look, I've actually done all of this. I meet all of this key criteria. I've got this experience. I've got the skill set. I've led this team. So the conversation very, very, very quickly becomes, okay, yeah, wow, like you've proven that you're capable of this and you're actually probably already acting in that role. We just need to meet you at that salary point, so I suppose. It's a much easier conversation.
So actually bringing a bit of armour, almost coming into that conversation with armour for yourself and backing for yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. I think also there's power in bringing to the table information from competitive companies.
Yeah.
If you show them what is happening in other companies that are doing the same thing that they're doing, do a bit of research. If you can find that the role you're doing in a competitor is being paid 30K more and you're doing the same job, if not more, go get that role description. Find out what that person's paid. Like,
absolutely,
back yourself.
Absolutely. And if you are in a company where there is very clearly like a linear career progression, you should have access to those position descriptions. Like, realistically, you should feel comfortable saying to your manager, like, look, can I look at what my next manager and the one above looks like, so that I can see what my career might be looking like in 5 years' time or 2 years' time or whatever it is.
How do I get there? Can you help me carve out
and
a path
what's the
to get there?
timeline? How can you help me tick those things off, fill those gaps in? Because I would love to be at this point in 3 years' time.
You know what I think is huge too, Miranda, that I absolutely needed earlier in my career is mentorship.
Yeah.
God, the leaders that I've had the privilege of working with now over the last maybe 5 years of my career, if I had those people in my life in my early 20s, damn, I would have been unstoppable. But I was full of ambition, but I lacked the structure and the strategy to carve out where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the firing process, because here is where it gets gnarly, performance management, managing someone out. This is where the trauma comes in. I've got friends that have been through this. I myself have been through this. How does someone protect themselves? What do you have to say about this gnarly topic?
Performance management is never a fun time for anybody involved. There's a lot of different reasons why you even end up in that point. I guess if I was giving advice to someone who has been told they're about to go on a performance management plan, they're obviously going to be looking for continuous improvement. Whether they're wanting to actually performance manage you out, which is a strategy, and I think we're all very much aware that people do that on purpose to fire people, or they genuinely do want to see you improve. There's 2 reasons, and I think some people aren't able to see sometimes when it is for good intentions, because I think there can be a really great outcome from a performance management plan if it's done really well and the communication is really clear. But if you think that your manager is trying to performance manage you out of the business, which first off, that sucks. The things that I would be saying to that person, not from a HR perspective, but as a friend, would be they're wanting to, they're not wanting to see continuous improvement, but show them that you are continually improving in your craft, in your skill set, in your effort. I think that is probably the biggest one.
Also, this is if you want to keep the job.
Yeah, if you want to keep the job, this is what I think is probably what no one will say to you, which I'm happy to share. The next thing to me would be upping your communication. Do not give them any space to say, oh, I haven't heard from Miranda. I don't know how she's going. I can't see improvement. She's not updating me on her projects or her tasks and things like that. Do not give them a spare inch to say, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Leave no room for confusion.
Absolutely.
Have them know where you stand and what you're on, or manage up.
Absolutely.
I'm doing this. Here's where I'm at with this. Be proactive.
Super proactive.
Almost over communicate, I would say.
I would risk it. I would rather someone say, okay, settle down, as opposed
calm down.
to what have you worked on this week? I haven't seen you around. What are you doing? That is absolutely not what you want. The next thing I would do, and obviously I do this from a HR perspective, is document everything. So if you are having those regular performance check-ins, a good HR professional will be documenting that entire conversation. There'll be an agenda, there'll be key action items, there'll be notes, key outcomes, that kind of thing. And they should be emailing you that. That's technically how it should work. But I think it would never hurt to have your own notes, because if at some point it comes down to they say that you agreed to do this and you didn't do it, but there's no record of it, I would 100% be leaning on the notes that I've taken. One note is a girl's best friend.
Those are good tips.
Yeah.
So social media, the trials and tribulations of it can come up in HR conversations. There have been many a slip here and there. What is your advice on navigating social media as an employee?
Social media is the bane of any HR manager's existence, because it's a real grey area, because it happens outside of the workplace, but it obviously affects relationships and the environment within.
And reflects on the employer.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So
you're about to lose your job. I do love that phenomenon. It is great at catching out scumbags.
Oh, yeah. Well, even the Coldplay concert recently.
Shout out to Coldplay, because that was an excellent example of how social media can really do you a dirty.
And why you don't have a relationship with your boss. Anyway, my advice to anyone starting out in their career, and I took this advice on very, very, very early in my own, was I would actually put my profile in private, and I would not let anybody from work follow me, and I would not follow them. And the reason for that is I would never, ever, ever, ever want to put myself in the position where, say, for example, I've seen that you've gone out on Sunday night and you've been wasted. And
Woo! I'm getting X'd up.
Exactly. And like, happy for you as long as you show up to work the next day. But if you're then calling in sick on the Monday, that puts me in a very uncomfortable position where I have information as to why you're maybe not at work, and vice versa. Like, I wouldn't want to have posted something that then makes someone else feel uncomfortable. I also think that, and I have dealt with this time and time again, with young women coming into the workforce, being very open and naive with their social media and having male employees slide into the DMs. That is a very uncomfortable situation to navigate on a regular day. But I just think if you've set that boundary right from the beginning, you're completely avoiding all of that. That would be my biggest tip. Okay.
We're going to get into our rapid Riz round. Full of Riz, rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Let's go. What's the best sickie you've ever heard?
The best one I've had was I missed a FaceTime from an employee randomly at like 2:30 a.m. on a Monday morning.
Okay.
And she called me at about 9:30 a.m. and she's like, I apologise, I was really drunk and I tried to FaceTime you at 2:30 to apologise because I was so drunk and I wouldn't be able to come into work today. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. That was the best sickie because she was so honest. Like, obviously there was a bit of reprimanding there, but at least she was upfront.
I think honesty is the best policy. Honesty or diarrhea.
Oh, yeah, I've had a few.
No one's questioning diarrhea.
I've had a few of those. And thrush. Thrush has come up a lot.
Thrush and diarrhea. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be vulgar, but no one's playing with those two. Okay, question 2 of the Rapid Riz round. Who are the worst to manage? Gen Z, boomers, or millennials?
That's hard. Oh, gosh. They all have pros and cons.
Right.
They all have pros and cons.
We're all a pain in the ass in different ways.
Yeah. So I'll say boomers are tough because they hate change. They're so resistant to change, technological change. They just hate it. But they're usually very direct and they'll tell you what they think. That's a pro. Millennials like us, I feel, are the silent quitters. They just won't say anything and they'll just like, yeah, catch ya.
They're banking it up.
That sucks.
They're moving in silence. They're moving strategically.
Yeah, it's like they hate conflict and they just won't talk about it, so they'd just rather leave. That really sucks. And then the Gen Zs are very entitled, I will say. It's like they've never had to work a day in their life before. Not all of them. But I'll say, yeah, you definitely have to try and teach them a work ethic and you cannot like pull them away from their phone. That is the hardest thing.
They're on the bloody TikToks.
Yeah.
They're on the TikTokies.
Yeah.
This podcast is on the TikTokies, by the way, at Personality Podcast. Go follow me. As a millennial, it's not my favourite app, doll. It's not, but I'm getting into it. This is a good one the girlies will relate to. My manager is a mole. How do I handle them?
My personal opinion, it would be to kill them with kindness. Like, kill them with kindness. Platform them even when they don't deserve it. When I say that, I mean within groups. Say, me and Susan have done this really great report, or if someone congratulates you, be like, Susan helped me with this. Give them that extra, you know what I mean? Like, they're looking for a reason to hate you, but how can you hate them if they're like giving you props?
That's smart. That's very clever. It is very hard. You can't hate someone who is profiling you in a positive way.
Yep.
I love that. And also, shout out to Selena Gomez, because I feel like killing them with kindness really went up a notch when she dropped that bop. Number 4, what's the spiciest reason you've had to fire someone?
I've had someone steal $70,000 over a 12-month period.
Stop.
Yeah, that one was...
$70,000.
And like the most unsuspecting person you could ever imagine. Like, yeah, anyway. But I have had a client come to me and be like, I just don't like her personality. She just doesn't really fit the vibe.
She's a hater.
I've had to explain to her, we can't fire people based on that. Like, I'm really sorry. That's just not possible. But you have these options.
I have the hots for my boss. What should I do? This is tricky,
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't talk to him. Don't engage. Like, it's just not worth it. Like, it's just never, ever, ever, ever worth it. Like,
it's so messy, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. And I would probably say most work relationships, there's some element of cheating in that one person is probably in a relationship So to me, that behaviour's just going to repeat 100%. They'll just do it again with someone else in 5-10 years' time.
Yeah, so just think of that, girls, when you iron up hot little Jeremy
Keep it
from
in
the
your pants.
sales team.
Keep it in your pants.
Keep it in your pants. You've been an absolute treat. You've been a doll. Give it up for Miranda McLennan.
Thanks, babe.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I've loved it.
If you enjoy this episode, hit like, follow, subscribe. We're out wherever you get your podcasts.